Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed, along with me as Mike, and we have our special guest for this week, Jax. Jax, major Spider-Man fan, so always good to get his kind of perspective on the Spidey universe. We are here at issue number 5 of Ultimate Spider-Man. It's been the biggest comic book going from Marvel, DC across the board, and one of the big two. It's been going on. Jonathan Hickman, we have a fill-in artist, which we'll talk about with David Messina in this particular issue. But we get a little bit of development in this one. So before we go through much, the plot and stuff like that, Mike and Jax, I'll kick it to you guys. What did you think of issue 5 so far?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I liked the way that they expanded like Harry's backstory a little bit, and it also kind of set up another mystery as to who all did Tony Stark send like these devices out to, because he sent those soccer gloves to some random guy. So it kind of makes you question who that guy was and what other people might have been sent something by Tony Stark. And also it was just it was cool going into Harry's backstory, showing him going to that start
A little bit of world building that we get.
Yeah, and also introducing Otto Octavius, which I'm pretty excited to see what they do with him, because Doc Ock is like one of the best Spider-Man villains. So I'm not sure if they'll go down the route where he'll become a villain, but like I'm pretty sure from what we've seen, like they're probably going to go in that direction, and I'm excited to see eventually what this version of Otto Octavius looks like as Doc Ock. And seeing, I'm also kind of, it also got me kind of curious about that guy with like the eye patch that Harry was interrogating.
And yeah, I didn't know if that was supposed to be Bullseye or who that was. It's interesting to kind of leave that open. I would agree a lot with you on that, Jax. I think a lot of good world building in this. I think some of the things a poor writer would take an issue like this and it wouldn't work. But Jonathan Hickman's just really good at weaving a yarn together. And I think one of the things is with an Ultimate Spider-Man universe, you got to tell me where the pieces are on the board. It's cool to see things reshuffled and kind of see like the mirror image of like, how is it different? But you have to take some time and you have to get it. And I love that they did that for Harry. They explained who Norman Osborn was. Like you said, they mentioned we get Otto. It's cool to see those guys come into focus and not just be, hey, it's Otto Octavius, and you're just supposed to assume it's largely the same, even though it's a different universe. So I thought there was some pretty good world building there. Mike, I know you've been Ultimate Spider-Man, kind of got you back into Spider-Man. What did you think about the issue overall?
I'm still enjoying it. It got a little fuzzy with me with the back and forth, like 4 years ago, 2 weeks ago,
jumped the timelines.
Yeah, and I was trying to shuffle and put everything in perspective, but I kind of see what they were trying to do there. I kind of wish it had been a little more chronological, but that's okay. I still am enjoying it. There was no Spidey, was there?
Only a couple pages of
Peter.
They
had one shot of him in the original black suit. Yeah. So, but I'm glad that they are spending some time world building, because I'm liking this world, so I need to know this stuff. One thing that is concerning with me is that it's issue 5, and I don't know how many issues. I'm mostly an indie guy, so by issue 6, things are really like winding up. Yeah, and so this feels more like the end of the beginning, where the middle hasn't started. Or are we committed to a full 12 issues? I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, it's listed as an ongoing. I think the interesting thing, like you said, that we're issue 5. We've had a fill-in artist for 2 issues already.
What happened?
I think it's a great comic book, and I've really enjoyed it so far. But I'm starting to see, I would say, there's a little bit of that, for, I guess, given the world, a little Spidey sense going off of seeing the same thing that we see in the big 2 all the time, in terms of a little bit slower issues in issue 4 and issue 5. While I appreciate them, I do think it's a little bit of a risk in terms of, for your buyers who really got swung back into comic books and enjoy the action and Spider-Man, to go by issue 5 with, we're already going to have a non-Peter Parker centric issue. I think for the long-term buyers like you and me, and someone like Jax who's really invested in the Spider-Man universe, it's an okay move. For the new buyer, where this may be the 5th comic book they're buying of the year, they might kind of look and go like, "What the heck, man? There's no Peter Parker in this." So I do think it is a little bit risky from that angle. I do appreciate the world building piece. It's again fill in artists for 2 issues, and we're only 5 issues in. And I know we're getting Chichetto back for issue 6 to wrap up the first arc, but again, it's one of those things with the big two. The constant complaint people have with the big two is you sell me the comic book as it's Hickman and Chichetto. I get it for 3 issues, and then I get 2 issues of fill-in, and then I get. So at this point, we've only had one more issue of the main artist than a fill-in
Who's
artist.
gonna get it after that? We don't know.
Yeah, and it's nothing against Messina. I think he does a really good job. If this was the regular pencils for the comic book, this is accurately done. I mean, this isn't bad. But again, it's one of those things where when you're competing against manga, and manga is clearly ahead of comics, I think when you have fill-in artists compared to something like One Piece or whatever like that, where you can go and every volume's the same, it looks the same, it's the same art team, it's consistent, it's one story. I think you're having a few things creep in, and I think for me, I love it. I'm a huge Jonathan Hickman fan. I love getting to see Harry. I love getting to see the backstory of the Goblin suit. I really appreciate the touches that Hickman's doing in the writing with like Shocker again tries to pull the same trick on Harry of like the I'm sort of
Yeah,
my wife and kids, and he's just a thief.
yeah,
I love the running through lines and things like that. It kind of reminds me of what they used to do with Turk in the old 80s Daredevil comic books, where he was kind of like a recurring villain who would show up and try to scam Daredevil. And I thought that was cool. But I do worry that while we liked it, I do think for this comic being as big as it was and the amount of fans that it got in, that an issue like this is certainly risky, where you're going to get some new fans who are like, what the heck, man? I'm buying this for Peter Parker and I got 2 pages of him in the comic book. I think that's a risk. Um, Overall, though, how you guys feeling about Ultimate Spider-Man? I know we're 5 issues in. Has the excitement died down a bit for you? Or are you still kind of looking forward to these next issues?
Yeah, I'm honestly more excited than ever was because um, I know that issue 6 is probably gonna have something kind of big in it, based on the cover, like Spider-Man fighting Kingpin, So um, yeah, and the fact that we got more of Harry's backstory makes me even more excited to see what he's gonna do in the future and how him and Peter are gonna go about like taking down Kingpin as the series goes on. So yeah,
for me, it is so cool to jump into a Spider-Man story when I don't need to know, 10 years of continuity to
Yeah,
understand what's going on. So I love that it's all fresh, and so I'm down for it. And I do think that the casual buyer that jumped into this, although I don't know how they could have, that probably had to get a third or fourth printing
yeah,
of the first issue. But the thing of it is that if you got them hooked, and keep them coming back to the comic shop because that's where it all begins.
yeah. No, I think overall it's still in good shape. I think I would like to see more consistency with the art team, and I think it's one of the things I think indies do a good job of this with like it's not my favorite comic, but there's this comic Void Rivals coming out with Robert Kirkman. And it wrote the first 6 issues, had the same writer and artist. And then it took like a 3 month break to give the artist time to get working on the pencils. And then, 7, 8, 9, and 10 have had the same artist. And it's like, almost would rather see that approach of, if Chichetto can't do the next issue, maybe a bi-month not's the worst thing. And then I think the one thing that's going to haunt these Ultimate books is they got so many people back in the stores for Black Panther and Spider-Man. Once you start doing different artists, different storylines, different timelines, you kind of get a lot of those trappings of comic books that I think push some of those folks away. And while I know it's the job to please the modern comic book fan who is going to the store every Wednesday, this is a huge opportunity for Marvel with as many people who are buying this. I
to
just hope it
build
doesn't fall
a,
by the
a
wayside.
to build a larger base, right? Books like these
Absolutely.
could really expand your base and increase your sales long term rather than short term. I think you got to think
Yeah.
long term, and
No,
because
and that's what Ultimate Spider-Man, the first round, did such a brilliant job of. Is it had Bendis and Bagley did the book, and they were on, I think, almost the first 100 issues of that book. And so every month you knew you're getting the same team. It's consistent. I just worry like if it's already there in issue 5 where we're getting fill-in artists, where are we going to be by issue 22? Where are we going to be by issue
oh
24? And
no.
so it even goes that long.
But
But
all in
I
all,
guess
it
we'll
was
see.
fun.
No, fun. And what I will say as a fan who's been reading all this Ultimate stuff, I love that we start to see a little bit of the seeds of all the other stuff that's going on. Because the Ultimate Universe kind of started with that Ultimate Invasion comic book and then the old Ultimate Universe one shot. There's a lot of things that are different in this Ultimate Universe in terms of the countries look different. The world is ruled by different people and different factors and different sections. And so you're seeing a little bit of that come in with Kingpin and Goblin and some of the different pieces. And I think that's pretty cool to see. We're also seeing the repercussions of the whole Tony Stark being blamed for the terrorist attack and stuff like that. So I do like that Hickman's tying some of those threads together. I do wonder what it'll do for the casual fans who've been picking this up. But overall, I think really solid. If I had to give it a grade, I'd probably go. I think this issue, I'd give it an A because I really love the world building. Mike Jax, if you were given letter grade on this one, where would you be at for issue 5?
I think I'd probably give the same thing.
I would
Okay.
I would give it a B.
B.
I would
Okay.
give it a B. Compared to 1, 2, and 3, those were solid A's.
Sure. For
right?
sure.
So
Hopefully we'll see a good issue 6. Good to see Chichetto back. He's one of my favorite artists, and hopefully we see Spider-Man more in the Spider-Man comic book next week. As much as I like the detour to Harry, I hope we can
it's on the
see.
cover. It says Spider-Man there, so we should have some more Spider-Man next week. Next
Hopefully
month.
we'll get to see him next issue a little more.
Yes.
But solid issue. Let us know what you guys thought below. Did you check out Ultimate Spider-Man? How you feeling about the run overall? We always like to see your guys' thoughts, and as always, we will catch you in our next video.
Thanks, everybody.